Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of the Friday Reporter podcast. Last time I talked to Chris Cillizza, it was right before he was let go from CNN. And now, in the last 3.5 years, he's built an entire independent journalist empire. He is doing a Substack. He's got an incredible following on YouTube. He's doing a ton of collaboration with guys like Chuck Todd and you name it. So I wanted to get him back because I wanted to hear all about this new empire that he's building. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Friday Reporter. This week, I am talking to Chris Cillizza, who you all know and know well. He is the guy who we get a lot of hot takes about politics, but I'm not interested in talking about politics today as much as I'm interested in the empire that is Chris Cillizza. You have... I mean, seriously, dude, you are killing it on the independent media front. I'm so impressed by your work.
It's a totally First of all, thank you for not wanting to talk about politics, because I feel like sometimes my kids who are 16 and 13 now, they understand it a little better. But I remember when they were a little bit littler, they'd be like, what do you do for a living? You know, like a doctor, you take care of patients, an accountant, you do number stuff. And I was like, honestly, I mostly just like talk about politics. They're like, that's a job. And I was like, look, I'm as surprised as you are. So, I spend a lot of time talking about politics. Yeah, it's been, I always tell people in trying to be as honest as possible, like, look, I didn't choose the independent journalism lifestyle. The independent journalism lifestyle was kind of thrust upon me, like 3.5 years ago, I got an email from Sam Feist, who was the bureau chief at CNN, being like, hey, can you come into the office for a meeting? And I was like, this is weird. And they were like, well, you're being laid off. I mean, I was one of hundreds of people at that time and one of thousands of people that this has happened to in media. So it was like, well, I still like doing this stuff. I'm not sure I'm good at anything else. Some people probably would debate whether I'm good at this, but like, I wanted to keep doing it if I could, but I didn't know if I could, to be honest, right? I mean, the reality is, it's like, I'm not 25. I needed to make a certain amount of money I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I wasn't sure if it would work. And it has mostly. I mean, I always am nervous to be like, everything is great, because it's a little bit, one of the things about living kind of an independent journalist lifestyle is it's little less certain. You have to deal with uncertainty more. I don't make a salary, right? Like, but man, the opportunities that it's like afforded me, and I've benefited from the fact that certainly the last year, this has been the thing that everybody is interested in. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, mainstream media is kind of dying. What's coming next? And this is a thing where people are like, oh, okay, we want to put some money here, or we want to try this, or we want to do a collab or a partnership. And so I've benefited from like fortuitous timing in that regard too.
Well, so whatever it is, it's working. And
I'll take it.
You can't miss the hustle. I mean, honestly, Chris, you never miss a minute. You never miss a minute to jump onto Substack, to share information, to collaborate with Chuck Todd and other really smart journalists and people that you know in the space. I think, though, like, while you're having a moment and it happened at the time, don't forget I talked to you like 2 weeks before. So the last time I talked to you, you were still at CNN. And then in the middle of all of that transition, I hit you up because I was like, I can hold this episode, because you had been laid off and you're like, no, let it fly. Because you had said some really cool things about CNN. You talked about your career, all this. But I literally spoke to you right before that happened. And so
I didn't realize it was right before. Yeah.
It was right before. And so I've watched all this, and and it's so inspiring. Like, I feel
gosh, that's so nice. Thank you.
You do a good job. Like, you do a good job, not only, first off, hustling to make your own living, but you also grab people that are coming out of the space and encourage them to do their own thing. Not what Chris Cillizza's done, but like, do it your way. And I love it so much.
I think I would just 2 quick thoughts on that. Number one, I do talk to a lot of people now who are, see the writing on the wall in terms of like mainstream media. Like, I always say the worst thing you can do in mainstream media is succeed, because they'll pay you more money. And at some point, someone will be like, why are we paying this person this amount of money? And they'll get rid of you. So a lot of people reach out to me, and I tell them 2 things, both of which are tied to your points. First, it is not like a career capper. Like, succeeding in this space is not just like, kind of occasionally post a thought that I have, or like, you have to bust your ass. It's, there's a lot of competition. You do not benefit from the traffic funnel that these mainstream media sites still are. I mean, they're not as much as they once were, but like, don't think of it as like, well, I'll just start a Substack, make $1 million and retire. Like, that's not, especially now with as crowded as this space is. But the second thing I always tell them is like, look, you don't have to do it like me. I make a lot of content. Like, you don't even have to take the approach that I take. It's like, it's the most important thing in this space is authenticity. I don't even think people necessarily feel like they need to agree with you all the time. They just want to understand that you are doing your level best to bring them information in whatever space it is, bring them information in an honest and transparent way without a big agenda. Or if you do have an agenda, that you acknowledge that agenda. And I think that's the thing that people lose. I remember when I first started doing TV, I was at MSNBC and they had me go to like a television trainer who like teaches you how to read the teleprompter better and speak in like a newsman voice and all that stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, I think that's all kind of bullshit. I mean, I think it's like, people want, if you're a guy who has a natural newsman or newswoman voice, great, but if you're not, don't pretend. Like, just do you, because then if you fail, at least you failed doing you, as opposed to like trying to fit into somebody's idea of what. I think now more than ever, there's such a variety of offerings that I just say, like, just be authentic. Like, what are you most interested in? Do those things, because that's what's going to come through to people, right? That people always say to me, like, many people who disagree with me, they're like, look, I don't agree with you, but I like your passion. And the reason that I'm passionate is because I've chosen to do things that I'm really, really interested in.
Isn't that so great, though? And honestly, that transcends not just because I do a ton of communication training, right? That's my entire business. It's exactly what we coach, not just for journalists and for people that are in the information making creator space, CEOs, executives, like, lean into what you know and talk about it often, and do it in a way that isn't just like how someone else has done it. Like, do it your way. And that's what people latch onto. And it is, authenticity is kind of the buzzword of the last couple of years, but it's true. It really
It is.
lands.
And I think the counterpoint, but an important one, I think, to your talk about what you know about often is admit what you don't know.
Right on.
I mean, like, sometimes people be like, what's the Supreme Court going to do with tariffs? And I'm like, I mean, yes, I'm familiar with the general workings of the Supreme Court. I know the people on it. I know, broadly speaking, the tariff debate, but like, I'm not going to pretend. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional scholar. So I'm going to find someone like Steve Laddick, who's a law professor at Georgetown, has a great Substack for people interested. It's called 1A. It's amazing. I'm going to find him and like talk to him about it. And I think it's okay that I'm like, hey, look, like, some of these questions may be dumb, but like, I'm trying to learn. Or, not everyone's an expert at everything. I mean, I think one of the great fallacies of cable television is like, Trump's talking about Greenland now. Now every political reporter is an expert about Greenland and geopolitics. And it's probably not true. I think it's okay to be like, you know what? I don't know. I'm not an expert in that space. I'm working to learn more, but I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert on politics and campaigns, but I'm not an expert on, regulatory law. Like, and I think it's okay. I think we in journalism made a mistake, and I think mainstream media continues to struggle with this. It's like, you don't have to be the voice of God. I don't think people expect that. I think acknowledging either I don't know that, or, you know what, I made a mistake on that. It was a mistake, not because I have some secret agenda, but because, like, here's how I got to making that mistake. I always say this about Trump. Look, every weather vane that typically predicted who would win presidential elections was pointing in Hillary Clinton's direction in 2016. Polling, organization, message, money, resume, right? She had a resume, the kind of resume we elect president. Well, then Donald Trump won. So it's like, weather predictions are based on, we look at these models typically predict this thing. Well, every once in a while they don't predict that thing. And I think you have to say, I didn't predict Hillary Clinton was, or think Hillary Clinton was going to win because I wanted her to win or I was rooting for her. It's because we have all these prediction vehicles and they all pointed in one direction. They were wrong. Let's talk about why they were wrong. Let's talk about maybe I depended on them too much. And let's talk about other things that we could find that might help us predict. And that, to me, you gain so much credibility doing that. And media is still, I think, broadly too invested in the idea that we know everything.
Would you say too, like, I keep going back to this and I'm curious about your thoughts. It's very neat and tidy to put people's politics into two different buckets, right? Red or blue. And it's so tidy and easy. And this is the way, but I saw something you posted this morning that I thought was really right on. Regardless of how you feel about the guy that's in the White House, he's not a partisan. He's
No.
not aligned. He's not aligned to a particular set of issues or policies. He is loyal to number one himself, right?
Yes.
And so whenever we get into this back and forth, I find it to be the thing that I'm constantly fighting against, not journalists per se, but the model that bigger media puts this construct into is does this mean there's a diversion from the various policy? Yes, every day it's a diversion from the policies that we once decided because there is no longer a one lane or another lane. Everything is everywhere.
Do you remember, we're old, so I'm sure you do remember this, but I mean, I remember as recently as maybe 2008, in the Republican Party, it was like, there's a moderate lane, centrist lane, Rudy Giuliani. There's a social conservative lane, Gary Bauer or someone like that. And then there's the kind of like establishment electable lane, is it Romney? Is it McCain? Do you ever heard any talk about the social conservative lane anymore? The moderate lane? I mean, it's just, even if people do, I'm always like that makes me suspicious of them because you're operating under a thing that's like demonstrably false. Did Donald Trump win because he occupied the social conservative and the establishment lane? No, not even close. Under that model, Jeb Bush would be the nominee. He was the most acceptable to the most number of lanes in 2016. He didn't even come close to being the nominee. And so, yeah, I think that I get why we in the media are beholden to our priors because it's comfortable. But I always say, I'll give you one example. I always, when I give speeches and stuff, I talk about the 2028 presidential race because people are interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk about how I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has like a very, very serious chance if she wins to be the nominee. And people will be like, oh, no, of course not. She can't win. She's too liberal. And I always say, like, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm not advocating for her. I agree that under traditional political thinking, she's to the left of a significant chunk of the Democratic electorate and the country. But just remind me who the president of the United States is currently. It's Donald Trump. And he's in his second term. So don't tell me fill in the blank can't get elected, fill in the blank can't happen, because we've seen the last 11 years that all of that is out the window. So I think that we kind of know that those old rules don't apply. I think the problem is we are a rules-based people.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, like, there aren't a hell of a lot of rules that do apply. It's not like we subbed in one set of like governing principles for another set of governing principles. We basically said, okay, all these things you thought were true aren't true and nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no,
Absolutely.
and then these things are. And I think that's unsettling, which I get, but I think it does a disservice to act like we're in well, Republicans think this and Democrats think that. I mean, Donald Trump is like very loosely a Republican. I mean, like, I know he's affiliated as a Republican, but like his belief system is like Trump. It's not Republican.
I'm surprised they haven't changed the name of the party yet.
Well, that's coming. Still got over 1,000 days left in his second term,
Oh
Lisa.
God, we're all aging by a million years. All right. So famously, though, I love that you do a little bit of the I'm no longer beholden to big bosses. And so you get to go in many, many different directions, which I love. Talk to me a little bit about back from when you were there and now today. What kinds of political coverage do you see as like a high traffic, but like low value media? Like there's tons of it. So can you pick one that you think is not great value?
I'll give you an example. And I don't really mean to pick on him, but he's I think, a symbolic of a broader trend. So Don Lemon and I worked together at CNN. He got let go. I got let go. He has a very successful Substack and YouTube presence now as an independent person. That model, which is basically, I'm writing a post right now called "Is Don Lemon a Journalist?" That model of you're really a partisan, right? But you kind of are wearing a journalist's clothes in that, like, I guess he's kind of doing reporting, but you like very clearly know which side he's always going to land on, which is, orange man bad. Um, that model is extremely lucrative in the independent space. I always say, if you had no soul and you came to me and you said, look, I want to start a political blog, a political Substack, or a political YouTube channel. I just want to sell for getting as rich as possible. I would say, okay, like, be as consistently and extremely pro-Trump or anti-Trump every single day as possible. That's your quickest way to make money.
Absolutely.
Add subscribers. And are you adding value? Oh, right. Like, it's like, how many times can you predict we've reached the end? Donald Trump has reached his end. He's finally gone too far. It's like, it's Boy Who Cried Wolf. Like at some point I said, well, number one, he's still president. And number two, I always say this for these people who are like, democracy is over. It's like, all right, just quick question. Do I have to drive my kid to soccer practice tonight if democracy is over? Oh, I still do. Okay, well then, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think
Yes,
one of
I
the
do.
mistakes that Democrats made in 2024 was they were basically saying, like, if Donald Trump gets elected, it's all over with. And people were like, what is all over? Like, like it felt like kind of an empty, idle threat. And so that kind of journalism succeeds now. I understand why. I think people now more than ever live in information bubbles. People want they want confirmation bias, right? They want what they think. The people they consider smart are the people who tell them what they already think, not the people who challenge some of their beliefs. And the people that they're willing to pay for are people who make them feel better by saying, you're smart, you're right, everybody else is wrong. So I think it's Chuck and Todd and I talk about this all the time. Like, we've kind of chosen like a little bit less lucrative path in that it's just not who I am. It's not who he is to be like, every time Donald Trump throws a pitch, it's a strike. Every time Donald Trump throws a pitch, it's a ball. It's like, yes, I think he is stretching the rubber band of sort of political life and democracy in ways we've never seen it stretched before. But I'm not just going to scream that the sky is falling every day, because then if the sky is actually falling, it's Chicken Little, right?
Absolutely.
And so it doesn't bug me that Don does what he does, because I think he believes it. And there's a million people on both sides of that. I think he believes it. It bugs me a little bit that fits in the same capital J journalism as what I'm trying to do.
You were inside the machine, though, for a long time,
Yeah.
and you saw a lot of the cracks before you even separated from traditional media. What would you say was there a moment that broke the media the way it's now today? Like, or it's hard to say if there's one particular
Yeah.
moment, but for you, because you were there for a long time and then you stepped away and now you're in this sort of pioneer space. Is there something, as you reflect back on, like, whoa, that was a moment? That's when I really knew things were going in the wrong direction.
So,
And not wrong direction, but different direction, perhaps.
yeah, I mean, I think I don't know it's a moment. I think it's a mindset. I'll give you a mindset and a moment. So the mindset is that analysis and opinion are the same thing, right? So I think I can say, like, Kamala Harris was a bad candidate, and provide factual evidence that backs up that claim without being a hater of Kamala Harris or being perceived as like, why do you hate women? Um, and I think the media has never really understood that, like, analysis backed up by reporting and facts doesn't mean you're biased. It's people want you to be like, this is good, and I think it's good for these reasons. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to say I was wrong. But we're so obsessed with being the nonpartisan referee that I think we did get into kind of like, on the one side, Donald Trump says the sky is purple. On the other side, everyone else says it's green. I mean, blue. I think it's like climate is a great example of that. It's like, yes, there are people who say these changes in the climate are cyclical and, we heat and we cool. And then there's the massive number of the great preponderance of smart environmental people who say, no, we are in a unique period. Of the 25 hottest years on record, all 25 of them are in the last 50 years or whatever. So I think we did get a little caught into that, which made people trust us a little bit less. And I think the voice of God thing is part of that. The like, we're always going to speak from, here's the deal. And it didn't feel real. It didn't feel authentic. The moment, I think, is the accelerant to all of that was Trump. Mm-hmm. I always give an example. Fact checking is a great example. When George W. Bush was president, he would say some things, same thing with Barack Obama and Joe Biden, whatever. They would say things that were like at best stretching facts and truth and kind of using numbers to make a point they wanted to make out of context. They all do that. All politicians do that. But like, if there was a broad consensus in the media of like, what Joe Biden said about fill in the blank isn't true, Biden and his people would probably not say that again. Trump doesn't care about any of that. He doesn't care what the media thinks of him. He doesn't really have shame in that regard. And I think that accelerant highlighted the limits of the both sides kind of like journalism, because it was like, well, if one side is saying something, Trump says this all the time. He said, gas is $1.99 across the country now. And I always just point out, like, look, you can go to AAA. You can literally search gas prices by state right now. It'll take 2 seconds. You can Google it. There's nowhere that it's under $2 a gallon. In fact, there's nowhere that it's under $2.30 a gallon. Now, he can say gas prices are down, and he's right. But he's not right. It is factually inaccurate that anywhere in this country, in any state, the average gas price is under $2. I think we can say that without like worrying that people are going to accuse us of having Trump derangement syndrome. Like, and some people will accuse you of that, and that's okay. Like, you're not gonna, I think the media tried to please everybody all the time. And the reality is you're just never going to please everyone all the time. I remember when I was at CNN, Jeff Zucker, who hired me, who is also not there anymore. I was struggling with people just kind of like attacking me who had never met me. And I asked him about it, and he's like, you just can't, he said, you can't worry about what people who've never met you in person think of you. You have to worry about what the people who actually know you think of you. And I think of that all the time. It's like, people might hate the idea of me, but they don't know me. It's like they have a caricature of me. But I think we became so concerned with trying to please everybody. And that is such a loser's game. I mean, you're just not, especially when you cover politics. Maybe if you write about, no, I was going to say fashion, but there's no way in hell you're going to please everyone if you have any take on fashion. You just can't do it. And so I don't think it was a moment. I do think Trump was an accelerant without question, but he didn't create the cracks. He kind of pointed them out and made them separate wider faster than they might have if Joe Biden had won a second term.
What do you make of the use of his term that has now become, it's in everybody's mouth, fake news?
I mean, it's incredibly corrosive and destructive for the idea of truth and objectivity, which is a problem whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or you don't care about politics ever. I think one of the hardest things, and this gets back to the conversation we're having about Don Lemon, is like, if you, my younger son takes the bus home from school. The guy who drives the bus had to pass a bus driver's driving test. No, I just can't, like me, who can drive a car, I have a driver's license, I can't go drive a bus. I got to pass a specific test. If you need to be represented by a lawyer, he or she will have had to pass the bar in whatever state that they're representing. There's a test for that. What's the test to call yourself a journalist? There isn't one. Now, like many things, there's good and bad on that. The good is, I think, the gatekeeping done by mainstream media, and I will admit, mostly aging white men who run, or at least ran, but still largely run mainstream media, them telling you what mattered and what didn't, I don't think that best served the public. So the gatekeeping of mainstream media, I don't know that they know that it's over, but it's over, right? I mean, it's their capacity to make something a story is much lessened. At the same time, the negative of that is the gateway pundit who just makes stuff up on pro-Trump, or Don, who doesn't make stuff up but is clearly a partisan. Well, they all can call themselves a journalist, and no one is going to be like, well, where's the card that says you passed the journalist test? There isn't that.
Right.
There isn't an accreditation. The way that I approach things, two sources, trying to take any inherent biases I have out, trying to see things from every angle, not solving solely for profit, but trying to solve for editorial content first. They don't have to do any of those things. They can, and so as a result, the product, there is a lot of fake news out there. I mean, he's not wrong. I don't think this is, it's like with Trump with a lot of things. He says it, and I don't think it was true when he said it necessarily, but like, it's not untrue now. There are a lot of people who just make stuff up or cut a clip of something that's clearly misleading.
I'm not sure if I can interrupt for just a second.
Yeah.
I think it's a chicken or an egg moment. I'm not sure which came first, the fake news mention or the actual existence of fake news. Regardless, I think one has really fed off the other in a way that's been terrible for the whole system.
And again, you've seen this with the capitulation of like an Washington Post or CBS settling their the totally frivolous lawsuit that Donald Trump brought, or ABC settling a similarly frivolous lawsuit. These big media outlets are businesses. Now, they made enough money for a long enough time that we were allowed to forget that they were businesses, but they are businesses. They are designed to try to make money for their shareholders, or if they're privately held, for the people who own them. That model is never going to put capital J journalism first. It is always going to put money first and journalism at best second. Now, I always say this, I am not pure of heart. I do not do this, what I do. If I made $0, I couldn't do this. Right. I just couldn't. I have to pay my mortgage. My kids are in private school. But I'm much more transparent about, like, look, I need subscriptions to support this. I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear so that you subscribe to me. My bet has been there are enough people out there who say, you know what, I don't agree with him all the time, but I think he's broadly smart. He's on it. He's making content every day. I think it's worth this investment. I think you have to be open about that. I think the problem is like the reality is money is always, and profit is always going to be ahead of the journalism at these mainstream media outlets, but they pretend like that's the inverse.
Right.
Oh no, we're putting in the journalism first. Probably not.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's, and so I can at least say, yes, without your donations, I say this anytime anybody gives me money. You are giving me money. It is not going to some nebulous entity. It is literally going to me to do this work. If you want work like this to continue, you don't necessarily have to give to me, but you got to give to somebody.
Right.
And I think that being more open about that is a good thing, and it allows me to largely put the journalism first. I don't ever wake up in the morning and say, "Ooh, I lost a little bit of money yesterday. Come some people unsubscribed. I got to do something today that's gonna drive subscribers." I get up and I say, "What's interesting? What do I think that I can add to the conversation on?" And that's where I focus my time and energy. And that's, I think it's very hard to do that when you are an at scale media company. I don't have the overhead, I don't have the overhead. I'm in my house.
That's right. Well, let's get to it though, because I want to talk about just for a minute more, because we're getting to the end of the 30 minutes, Chris. I want listeners to know how to find you.
Okay.
And you're everywhere. I mean, so give me what does Cillizza.com, which is not where to find him.
No, don't go to Cillizza.com. I think it's a picture of, I think somebody still owns it, where it's a picture of a guy with his head up his ass.
All right, so don't go there, even though
Well, you can if you want to see a
everyone's
picture
gonna
of
go
his
there.
guy with his head up his ass. But
Let's
yeah.
do that. Let's not do that. Tell me a little bit about where they can find you. And before I let you go, I want you to tell me about this monumental sports thing you're doing too.
Yes. So I would say, I mean, obviously I'm on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
but
just
where
type
can they pay you for your smart
but
takes?
to pay me for my stuff, yeah, the two main things I do every single day are Substack and YouTube. So Substack, mostly a written newsletter. It's most of where my writing goes. You get 2 to 3 things probably a day in your email inbox. You can go to Chris Cillizza, CILLIZZA.substack.com. That'll take you right to it. Or you can literally just search my name and Substack and it'll come up. YouTube.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yes.
So can find
YouTube, same thing. YouTube.com/Chris Cillizza. We have 163,000 subscribers now on YouTube,
Wow.
which is awesome.
Congratulations. That's
It's so
fantastic.
cool. I make a video every single day there. It's literally me talking to the camera because don't know how to do any fancy video editing stuff. But those are the two main places. YouTube is mostly free. There is a pay tier that I do a little bit more for. I make more videos for them. Substack, there's free content every day. You have to pay if you want all the content. I always also tell people if you want to go to buymeacoffee.com, which is just a way to support independent creators. It's not just coffee. You can make like a reoccurring donation. Just search my name in there too. But yeah, look, just one quick thing. I know we're at the end. Support the journalism you want to see in the world because don't assume it will be there if you don't support it. You do not have to support me, but pick 5 things and rather than getting the second venti latte of the day for $8, pay for that to support a journalist to do the job for a month or a year. Do not assume that journalism and the kind of journalism you care about will exist if you do not support it. What we have seen over the last 15 years and rapidly accelerating over the last 2 years is journalists losing jobs, journalists not being able to do jobs, journalists not being able to even make it in the independent world. So support the journalism you want to see in the world.
I couldn't think of a better note to finish this conversation on, Chris Cillizza. This was so fun.
Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Come back again and tell us more about how things are going.
Hopefully the next time you won't be like, and then the last time I talked to you, you lost your job again.
I will never. No, I'm set.
Here's hard. I'm my own boss now, so I'd have to fire myself.
I wanted the upward trajectory. I wanted the success story of Chris Cillizza because it's a good one. I'm so glad to have you, my friend. Thanks for being with me.
Oh my gosh. An absolute pleasure. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks for joining me. That was super fun. I'm looking forward to a really busy and exciting 2026. Big thanks to my production team at Two River Pictures. And another really important thanks to my friends at Be the Brand Collective who helped me with marketing and making sure the word gets out about the show. I'll see you again for another episode. Thanks so much.